in the Microsoft channel, which has been kind of ignored for the last 15 years. I think it's gotten exciting now with the AI and they're starting to take market share from Google. It's early numbers or percentage wide isn't big, but the whole trend we expect to continue over the next kind of 5 to 10 years is you have just there's a lot to gain for Microsoft and a lot to lose for Google. Google doesn't want to give up the old way of searching 10 times to find an answer. So they're not really incentivized to make efficient use of AI because it'll kind of mess up their business model. So yeah, there's a lot of forces at play, and including the current antitrust suit. If and when you get to choose your search engine default on your browser, people might just pick DuckDuckGo or a ChatGPT enabled search engine or a Bing or something, and that'll have a massive impact in the search landscape.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm super excited to be chatting with Nate Burke, who runs Diginius, which is out of the UK. And for those of you who aren't aware of you guys, what's the elevator pitch these days, Nate?
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, so I guess the elevator pitch these days is Diginius. We're a tech company with a digital performance platform to help companies get what they need for high growth. So today, there's a lot of platforms out there, whether it's SEO or analytics or PPC or these different things, but they're all in different data silos. And for a company trying to run a business with disparate data that you got to then try to match back up, it's just not viable. So we take kind of the key elements from all these different areas to give the information that a company needs across all of their data in kind of first party data scenario, and then you can build algorithms and trading engines and so forth across all that data. So yeah, it's to kind of give the infrastructure to normal companies to look at how to grow and where to cut and to drive growth.
So is it it's beyond just dashboarding. So while the analytics data is in there, I assume that it's very action oriented as well, from the perspective of knowing how to adjust campaigns and reallocate budgets to where it's working hardest, correct?
Yeah. There's bidding engines. There's analytics that we can send data straight to the sales teams. Like, hey, this company's on your site. Here's the CTO's phone number, and I'll let to take it all the way from kind of start initial click to how do you turn it into revenue.
Great. Well, you're both in the U.S. and international, serving both agencies and clients. So where's your biggest focus for growth at the moment?
Well, for growth, I mean, I guess I think we originally met years ago in the U.S. I started in '97, kind of before Google, and actually started an e-commerce company before the first PPC engine. So when Go2 came out, and then went through all the Excites, Alta Vistas, etc., and then eventually Google took over the world. But yeah, we serve over 700 digital marketing agencies in over 50 countries to help, and we kind of have a niche where I think we're we decided to focus from a performance perspective on the Microsoft Advertising Network a number of years ago, and so we help agencies get better performance on that channel. And yeah, we're based in London. Moved here about 15 years ago from Florida. The U.S. is our biggest market in terms of volume, and then yeah, I mean, it's kind of, if you look at the ad search space, kind of U.S. is 40% of the global total probably. So yeah, we do. So for growth, if you look at numbers, U.S. is quite big, but then if you look in terms of kind of the future, there's a lot going on all over the world. We divide up our teams into kind of Americas, Europe, APAC, and we've got some exciting initiatives going on in, whether it's Taiwan or South Africa or all these different places. But in those markets, the market share, where we focus on Microsoft is maybe 3%. The accounts are smaller, so it's kind of earlier days. So yeah, it depends on what growth you're looking for, numbers of accounts or numbers of dollars or whatever. But yeah, you kind of, you always have to keep the US in mind in any growth forecast. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I remember when Did It built one of the first bid alert engines for GoTo.com, which didn't have an API at that time.
yeah,
So yeah, we were early in search as well, and Did It started in the SEO monitoring space for Lycos, Alta Vista, Excite, etc.
yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
loved it when you had transparent bidding, right? You could tell who was bidding, what price, and yeah,
yeah, I mean, once it went to hybrid auctions, and it became increasingly a black box. Um, so, obviously now the black boxes are different, right? You've got the Google AdWords black box, and you've got the Microsoft advertising black box, and the algorithms are a little bit different, but they're both API driven at the moment. I find that within the larger advertisers, at least in the United States, usually they've got Microsoft advertising accounts, but there's a mid-market and lower where it's Microsoft advertising is sometimes ignored. Like it just they never made it onto the radar. So I would imagine that's an area where Microsoft as a whole has an opportunity, as well as you guys as a facilitator for increased coverage.
yeah, it's a huge opportunity. Yeah, and yeah, we've got 50 people working on it. And a lot of technology, proprietary technology to in the Microsoft channel, which has been kind of ignored for the last 15 years. I think it's gotten exciting now with the AI and they're starting to take market share from Google. It's early numbers or percentage wide isn't big, but the whole trend we expect to continue over the next kind of 5 to 10 years is you have just there's a lot to gain for Microsoft and a lot to lose for Google. Google doesn't want to give up the old way of searching 10 times to find an answer. So they're not really incentivized to make efficient use of AI because it'll kind of mess up their business model. So yeah, there's a lot of forces at play, and including the current antitrust suit. If and when you get to choose your search engine default on your browser, people might just pick DuckDuckGo or a ChatGPT enabled search engine or a Bing or something, and that'll have a massive impact in the search landscape.
Yeah. Well, it's been interesting watching it so far. People may have this impression that Bing and Microsoft can't really move the needle for businesses without like naming names because you may not be allowed to. Do you have any sort of categories or clients that have come on board with using Microsoft advertising and been surprised at how much they were able to move the needle?
Yeah, I mean, we see typically a 20 to 40% better CPA on the Microsoft channel than Google if you manage it with a bit of tools, not just a blind. You don't want to replicate the bidding strategy, right? Because it's a different market. But I mean, people historically, when you talk to them, they're kind of like, well, Bing's just for old people that don't know how to change their browser. And you kind of have to talk through and say, well, actually, it's a lot of people on their desktop with higher incomes that are there with buying intent. And so we see, I mean, really good results in anything like B2B, anything with intent. I guess what they don't have is a lot of mobile users, teenagers on mobile phones, basically. But we have worked with some teenage fashion brands that the results are still good. It's just the volume, like on a more traditional vertical, you might get say 10, 20, 25% market share on Microsoft ads, whereas in teenage fashion might be 3%, but it still converts well. So it's not like you don't do it, but it's just not going to have the reach. But there's very few that we've seen that just don't work. In fact, one of the strategies that a lot of companies do, if they sit down and look at it and they say, all right, we just care about CPA and coverage and best yield and so forth. What some of them will do is say, okay, we've got, desktop traffic on Google, desktop traffic on Microsoft, mobile traffic, and there's a bit of a gap in mobile traffic on Microsoft. But if you look at your desktop performance, Google typically will perform, say, twice as good on desktop than on mobile. And so if you're not buying all your desktop traffic on Microsoft and you're buying mobile on Google, then you're missing a trick. You're spending a lot. And so we've had a lot of companies that will then say, hey, let me move some of that budget into Microsoft Desktop. And they're able to either just get a lot better yield, or some have worked at scale to kind of reduce by 50% the amount of money they're paying and get better results by kind of moving some of that budget that direction.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of understanding the marginal incrementality of every channel, and even within channel down to the ad group levels, even
Yeah.
to move money wherever it works hardest. And of course, device type is key, right, for that.
And it's also
is a great example of that.
Yeah, and device type is one. The other one that's really big is the partner networks, and that's one of the things I really love about the partner network on Microsoft is that it's transparent. With Google, you either have to turn it on or off, but they don't give you transparency or management into it. Whereas in the Microsoft Advertising Network, you've got partners like DuckDuckGo, and I mean, there's Ecosia. I mean, there's thousands of them, and you can get detailed reporting on every single one, every single campaign, etc. on the traffic that came from that. And then if you don't like it, you can exclude it. Right. So you don't just turn the whole network on or off; you exclude it. It is a bit of a headache. So we've developed a tool to automate all of that delivery and all of that management, which really helps with that. But like we did some tests with some big US advertisers, and we expected to get a 5 or 10% kind of improvement in performance, but every week it just kept going up another 5, 10, and it eventually got to 60% improvement in performance. And we think it's kind of a combination between, you get rid of the stuff that doesn't work as well for that advertising, you bring in new, and then maybe other people buy that and their budget's good. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but it was just phenomenal to have at volume kind of initially a $20 CPA move down to $5 CPA with a lot of volume, which was about $2 million worth to that one business.
Right. But I do like the fact that while Google's removing transparency and removing control, that Microsoft up till now has still been empowering, particularly through the API for you guys, and other API and solutions have been empowering much more granular level of control. And you don't want a platform watering your vodka down, right? You want to be able to get the full strength of the drink.
Yeah. And actually, Microsoft struggled for about a year to figure out how to react to the whole new Google Performance Max and so forth, because people wanted to say, how can we import a Performance Max campaigns? And so it took them quite a while to build out the suite to automatically import that and then show, but yet give the transparency so that you could actually manage it. And there's been a lot of the agencies we talk to, they see a lot of traffic bought in performance if you can figure out what's actually going on that just is questionable. And so it's quite a different approach or methodology or
philosophy.
Exactly. So, yeah,
absolutely. One of the other things that since B2B is one of those areas where you benefit a lot from the increased percentage of desktop, and you also benefit from increased granularity of control. One of the things we notice is that you want to have more nuanced KPIs, right? So not all leads are created equal from a quality perspective. They're not all equal from a conversion rate perspective, and if you really want to go crazy, they're not equal from an LTV perspective. So we find that we really want to be able to start scoring B2B leads and take as much of that information out of the back-end business intelligence and transmit it into bidding and campaign strategies. Have you found that that's been important for your clients and the agencies that you work with as well?
Oh, it's super critical. The Yeah, I mean, with e-commerce, like we build shopping engines and all these, like to do e-commerce, and it's e-commerce. You kind of can measure in hours, days, and weeks. So something like, some of the impulse stuff is just quick and you get it real quick. Some things like mattresses might be a 3 week, 2 week decision making process. It involves multiple people, but you still get the data fast
Right.
enough that you can really use it. Whereas in B2B, with sales teams and so forth, it's often a 6 to 12 month sales cycle. And that don't necessarily think in terms of performance marketing and scale and so forth. But the value of the B2B customer is often just enormous. And the efficiency, I mean, and the return on investment you get is enormous. Like we've had companies that we work with that, might spend a couple $1,000s a month and get $1 million or $2 million in value. It's just that it takes 9 to 12 months to build that picture. So yeah, kind of the different ways that we see working with that is initially it's kind of signals. So you might say, okay, let's look at bounce rates, let's look at click through or time on site, or let's pick some metric that shows that, okay, they come, they spend a minute, that's a lot better than 10 seconds, so let's give that a score, or let's do something that shows that we're getting some initial engagement, and then build it into eventually the CRM. I mean, ideally, if you've got a system that goes end to end, where you initially score everything by campaign, and then you go to the by then you kind of go down the sales funnel so that you can get build into the CRM, so they can eventually report back that, okay, yeah, that campaign generated that, at the end of a year, 23 deals and $2.8 million in business, and then you can build out those models that really scale it up. And we also have, like, we're looking at how do you get not just 5 or 10 but 30-50% more efficiency. And so we build in tools like lead intelligence, where we can identify the companies on the website, what company clicked, who they are, who is in the profile. Let's send that contact information to the sales team so they can, Google will tell you, oh, somebody in Boston clicked on my ad, but if they don't, only about 2% of people actually fill out a form or pick up the phone. So the other 98% you just missed. So if you can identify another 5, 10, 20% of those and then feed that into your marketing funnels, then that's another way to get kind of huge impact into it. But yeah, if you can figure that out, then so that the CFO understands it. And that's what we see is the crucial bit. So you work the model out so the digital team gets it, and then the CFO gets it, and then you can have a highly scaling B2B business with digital.
Yeah, I completely agree on the leading indicators, right? Because of the time to sale is sometimes pretty long. The bigger the sale, typically, the longer the sales cycle.
Yeah.
So, we'll look for all sorts of leading indicators, sometimes time on site, sometimes just visits to the contact us page, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
what they did from there. They may have called the toll-free number on that page, and you can use call tracking, of course, and things like that. So yeah, the better picture you can draw around, these visitors and who are the good ones and who are the not so good ones, become super powerful. LTV on e-commerce, though, is also, I think, under optimized, right? I mean, we see folks come to us, when we're being asked to pitch an e-commerce account, and they're using only the very initial ROAS numbers, right? They're not
Yeah.
going back into their business intelligence and realizing that they have an 80-20 or 90-10 rule in their business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They can find more of those customers that actually reorder at high volume and high frequency. That makes a huge difference. I don't know if you've also built optimization engines around that for your e-commerce clients.
Yeah, I think in e-commerce you have to look at what's the nature of the business. So are they purely a middleman, or are they actually the manufacturer? And if it's like a pure retailer that just buys and sells other people's products, you've got a kind of a very different strategy
Sure.
than and so. But in any strategy, um, if you kind of say, okay, yeah, we got all this e-commerce stuff. Everybody's got pressure on this. You got to make it work right. Okay, let's just take that for granted. But what else are you doing outside of that? Like, how does your email work? How does this work? How does all these other things work? Your loyalty programs? Because if they don't get their email marketing right, if they don't get all those things right, then they can't afford to spend as much on ads. So you kind of want to say, hey, get that working right, and that's like when I was. Yeah, it's just email is the most efficient way of marketing to existing customers. It doesn't cost you almost anything. So you kind of say, all right, make sure you have all that in place, and then let's get into the actual trading of it. So yeah, when you're trading and kind of getting companies to understand the difference between like true acquisition of new business versus recurring customers and
Right.
splitting that out, that's a big deal. The most interesting to me is working with manufacturers because they kind of own the customer more or own the product, let's say own the product line more and can have a longer term relationship with the customer.
Right.
Retailers, it's more difficult because things can trade and so forth, but the manufacturer, they're the source of the product. And they're also typically, they typically think about e-commerce not the way they should be, I guess you would say, at least in my view. So when you kind of go down to this point, you say, okay, what are you doing to reach it? And a lot of the e-commerce manufacturers tend to kind of split in their head, like, oh, this is my wholesale channel and this is my retail channel. and you say, no, it's all customers. Like, you don't know when somebody searches for that keyword and they come on your website, you don't know if they're looking for one product or 100. You don't know if they're a homeowner in Idaho or, a distribution business in Texas that, might do 20 million with you next year. And so you have to make sure when they come to your website, they've got an experience that can do both. And so what that means is, and also in the keyword mix you have. So like, let's say you're could be a drinks manufacturer, could be, making, composters, doesn't matter what. When you're the manufacturer, you want to come to that page and say, okay, there's the product, there's whatever. And then put down there, are you looking to buy in large volumes? Are you looking to set up a retailer chain? And then have the flow. So like, okay, yeah, if they're a consumer, they can buy, take it. Or if they're a bigger player, they can have an experience that goes back through, yeah, contact the sales team, set up an account, do this sort of thing. And by kind of combining those two things, we've seen companies all of a sudden turn this kind of break-even channel of retail into developing millions in new kind of large business. And then you just use the retail as a testing model and cash flow it in order to get those bigger inquiries. And that to me is kind of the more exciting part of it, when you can help those the manufacturers and the companies kind of go a lot better direct with a strategy that works for all their different classes of customers and a unified experience.
Yeah, that's an excellent point for the manufacturers who are D2C and B2B2C, right?
Yeah.
And but I also really love the point you made, which I like to think about as leverage or compound marketing, which is every layer of efficiency you add after they get to your site, as it relates to email marketing or CRM or social media or browser alerts or browser push notifications, all those things that you can add increase your leverage and your ability to pay a little bit more for that impression or click, right?
Yeah.
People
it's
don't
gotten so
realize it's an
expensive.
option. That's
Yeah.
key.
I mean, when we started, you could buy traffic at a penny a click.
Yeah, I remember.
And there wasn't competition.
Anybody could do it.
Yeah. And now, I mean, we're seeing with the cost of clicks and all that, you got to be extremely efficient. And then use every channel that you can. I mean, we've had some like in finance that they find it's cheaper to, I mean, they still do search in PPC, but they're finding now you get yields of direct mail now because nobody does direct mail anymore. And, so yeah, so
started a direct mail division and added QR codes to every piece. It's actually really cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of going full circle. It's just like now with all these cookie problems and this problem and that problem, whatever, you don't, and the key, the transparency and lack of, you got to go back doing the old-fashioned keyword research and old-fashioned tracking because you can't trust any of it anymore.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, I know Microsoft's also obviously got Xandr, right? And for the SMB at the S side of SMB, Xandr is probably not going to make sense. But at what sort of overall spend level do you think that people should start considering layering Xandr into their buys?
Well, so Xandr, Microsoft has integrated Xandr into the Microsoft Advertising Network. So they call in the MSAN network. So and actually, a few weeks ago when we were in New York, we had the global head of MSAN come and speak at an event at Microsoft offices for our clients, and kind of go through it all. And so all the connected TV, the MSAN, the programmatic advertising, that's all actually in the Microsoft Advertising Network.
Mhm.
So you can test on it, you can play with it even at very small budgets.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
if you want to go direct, like if you want to go buy Netflix though, like, and you want to buy that directly on Xandr, then yeah, you got to spend at least 10 grand a month and do
Right.
all of that. But within the actual Microsoft advertising platform, you can now buy connected TV, you can buy programmatic, you can buy all of that and test any level of budget that you want to. So it's quite accessible now for any SMEs, not just the large networks.
So one other thing that sort of is a potentially an equalizer, right? It used to be that when it comes to video advertising or more snazzy ad formats, the smaller marketer didn't have the resources to do the creative, but AI-based creative holds a lot of promise to sort of allow advertisers of all kinds to take advantage of AI created ads and also dynamic creative optimization of those ads. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about how that's going to change in 2024, like as people start to take advantage of that.
Yeah, so it's 2024. It's like you look at all these different years in this, this we've been doing this over 25 years, right? And I
Yeah,
remember there was like the year of the mobile, right? They said, "Oh, this is going to be the year of the mobile," and they
yeah.
said that for about
7 years,
5 years in a
8 years in a
row,
row.
8 years in a row. Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking the next, the year of the mobile could be next year, the following year when they actually free it back up, and you got, you release this, monopoly of the mobile. But this year has been more the year of AI, right?
Yeah,
And this kind of proliferation, a lot of these technologies that come out, there's a lot of hype. It's like every year there's something else. It's like Bitcoin, or it's machine learning, or it's and a lot of hype, but most people don't really see the. I mean, it's hype, right?
yeah,
So AI, I mean, we've had chatbots for years, but nobody really cared about them until they called it AI, and now you just got very sophisticated chatbots, which are AI. I mean, that's right. But the technology behind it, like the stuff NVIDIA is doing and stuff to process these incredibly large, like in resource intensive um, queries that are required for this, it's just, I mean, mind blowing how how much technology and hardware and stuff is behind that they tried to do this back in the 70s, but they just couldn't, right? So
right.
um and so when you look at this year, there's been a lot of hype, but there's been also just a huge amount of use of these tools. And now we start seeing it really start to come out in industry. Like I was talking to one of our investors that runs a fund, and he said he used to take 3 days to analyze an investment proposal and ask the questions, and now he just sticks it in there in 20 minutes. He's got a list of questions, and that's good enough to start with.
Yeah,
And you see that come across all sorts of different industries. You see it in whether it's programming or whether it's the real estate or whether it's and people are really starting to get good use out of these things, and the tools coming out now. I was just on a call with Microsoft today, and they're releasing in the interface a lot of AI tools to support the ad creation companies. You've got we're looking at AI to do things like automatically write product listings and in the bidding algorithms and all this. So I think we've started to see AI as a concept and testing with it in 2023. 2024, it looks like it's going to go a lot deeper
yeah,
and really kind of become part of the workflows and all that. And it's like it's like a steam engine or a car, or it's just kind of the next. It's nothing to be scared of. It's just another view of technology, and you kind of need to get your head around it and look at, okay, how are we going to use this? We've had our like our marketing team, like, okay, you're rewriting all these blogs, just stick it in there, see what it comes back with, and then rewrite it and whatever, and you can do it twice as fast, right?
right.
And so it's not, you still you have to be more of a critical thinker and you develop higher expertise in order to do it correctly, because anybody can spit it in, but if you don't, you got to write. It's kind of like running international teams. You've got a 30% overhead. You can't just hire people in a different country and think, oh, it's more efficient that way. It's like, no, you got to really work hard. The communication, the input, the output, the quality control, all of this. And so that, like, we see some agencies that we work with getting really good work out of the AI tools, but they put a huge amount of work into the learning and the modeling and so forth. And with on the image front, that's an interesting point you bring up, because that is the image generator is like the number two kind of search. It's like hundreds of millions of images people are playing with and using, and yeah, there's going to be issues with it. There's going to be plagiarism. There's going to be copying stuff you shouldn't copy, but the reality is there's going to be a lot of good ways to create very, very cheaply good video content that used to be very difficult, time consuming, and expensive. And that should enable a lot of people to do things they never could have dreamed of 12 months ago.
Yeah, super exciting. One other thing that's happening in 2024, and it's a big question mark, is, with the third-party cookie, being shut off within Google's, Chrome browser, you already have it missing from Safari and most of Firefox. So, marketers have been getting used to, the loss of the third-party cookie and the loss of targeting and resolution and tracking that comes with that. But do you feel like that it makes SEM and SEO, because of the high intent signal, more important to a marketing campaign?
Well, I've always found the SEM side is the most important part of the marketing campaign. So,
no argument for me.
Yeah. So, I can see how you can scale a lot of businesses with kind of good SEM. It's hard to see how you can scale with the other ways. It can be complementary. Yeah, it's I mean, there's the dark stuff that goes around with all these, cookies and tracking, and it's a very murky world. Um, so yeah, there's definitely a big impact in some of the murky areas that go around with data passing without consent and all that sort of thing. In the first party world, where you buy at a certain, you know what you're buying, you put tracking codes on it. Even if you got no cookies, you can still put stuff in the URLs, just like we used to 25 years ago, and you get the results. And so yeah, I think it's pretty, I mean, yeah, it is what it is, right? But a lot of the murky stuff that will struggle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting year. Anything else have you excited about 2024, either from a product roadmap perspective or business initiatives or just industry wide?
I mean, when companies like Google just put out so much, like eliminate transparency, it's exciting for companies like us, because we work on, we work to build algorithms and data where we kind of try to protect the client's data and put in a wall between it and giving it to the platforms. And so when we can do that, and then you don't have the tools from the platforms anymore, then we've got tools to do that. So, and then as you see the antitrust stuff really gearing up, it'll that these companies are so powerful. No, I mean, any one government struggles to do anything, much less small little agencies or companies like us. What can we do? These are like, I mean, they've got untold resources. So when there's kind of movements in the industry, when they say, hey, enough is enough, and they need to change the laws and change how they operate, I think break them up a little bit, that creates a bit of fragmentation, a bit more, oh, we need different tools, we need different ways to handle this, we need figure out how to do things around and all that. That's exciting to us because it just creates opportunity, and I think it's in general good for the market. Yeah, it's we've had a duopoly, triopoly, these 5 companies, that's been going on in the last 10 years. So yeah, hopefully there's more companies allowed to get into that club and not locked out. So yeah,
Right.
hopefully there's a good change in the landscape permanently moving forward, and that's
Cool,
exciting.
cool. But I look forward to continuing to follow your progress as you guys come out with new technology. I know that actually my Did It team and your team are working together on trying to make sure that the Microsoft Advertising Network and Bing is on any new clients we bring on board. So looking forward to that.
Well, cool. Yeah, anything at all. All our development is all kind of client driven. So if you got any interesting ideas for algorithms, for ways to improve performance, for data integrations, any and all that, just let us know, and we'd love to make things work better for you and your clients.
Great. And if people want to reach out to you, is LinkedIn a great way to reach you, or how should they follow up if they have any questions for you?
Yeah. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good. We've got query on our website. Yeah, anything at all. We're pretty responsive.
Sounds good. Thanks. I appreciate it, Nate.
Yep. Thank you, Kevin.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.